Hey adventurers, so today's going to be another book review. This is going to be for Seekers, The Winds of Change by Troy Knowlton. So this is a high fantasy, it's an epic fantasy, quest fantasy. I also mentioned that this is a self-published book, first book in maybe a series. I'm not entirely sure. I think Troy Knowlton does plan to write more in this world and with these characters, but I don't know exactly how it works as a series. But that's for later. The other books haven't come out yet. So, Seekers, The Winds of Change is the debut novel of Troy Knowlton and hopefully the first book in an epic fantasy series. I'm always hoping that books become series because I like series. Well, unless it's designed as a standalone and then I want it to be a standalone. But I'm always hopeful that people, if they want to write a series, can get their series written. So I was sent this book by the author in exchange for an honest review, and so hopefully that's what I'll do here. As you can see, I am slowly getting to the books that authors send me. At the moment, I'm being very careful and trying not to take very many books because I can't get to them very soon, and I probably won't get to most of these that I have received for a good long while still. Anyways, before I continue on with this review here though, I just quickly like to say that if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, so this was a really solid debut novel. I really enjoyed a lot about this book, especially the world and how much of it we were able to see. We get to travel to many different places, locations, and I was able to imagine it pretty well. That being said, it would be nice to get a little bit more detail and depth to the world building, the politics, the magic, the landscape, etc. There's quite a bit that's hinted at, but it's not really explored as of yet, and I do suspect that there will be more of that we get to see in future books. And so we got to see a lot of places, but we didn't really get into detail on any of those places as of yet. So I'm hoping that we get to do that a little bit more in future books, and I did like it, but I wouldn't have minded a little bit more exploration in that area. Characters are pretty important to me. There's kind of a balance that has to be reached between telling the story and then developing the characters, and I think that those two things can go hand in hand. So it's important to me that characters be good as well as the story be good. And in this one, I thought that they were solid characters here as well. Oren is probably my favorite, and I found myself a bit more invested in his storyline. That it didn't start out that way. I was more invested in Tyrus's storyline. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name at the beginning, but as we continued through the book, Oren's storyline was the one that came forward and was the one that grabbed my attention more. I also found that I was more invested in Oren's companions as well. That being said though, Tyrus and his crew had their own way of keeping me interested. The Seekers as an organization is actually really cool organization. Again, in world it's got some issues. In our world it would have some issues, but this idea, this type of character where it's a ranger or a seeker or kind of whatever you want to call it, that's kind of my favorite class of character, if you want to put it that way. I don't play D&D, so that's just what I'm gonna say that like I know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should say my favorite classification of characters, because then it sounds a little bit more like I know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I also really appreciated that the characters were around their early 20s, which is not something that we usually see. Oftentimes we'll see them skew younger or skew older. And it's nice to see characters that are roughly my own age and that have a skill set that is believable for a person of that age. So that's kind of cool to see and kind of nice to see as well. I will say that it did lose a bit of interest towards about the 65% mark, but I think that's more due to me not having time to read than it really was because of the book itself, and I'm not sure that I can entirely say that, because if I was super invested in the book I'd have probably made more time to read, but at the same time I was just super busy and so I couldn't make time to read even if I wanted to, and so it was kind of a back and forth mix between the two as it was, but I will just say I lost a little bit of interest around the 65% mark, and it did take me a bit to get through the last part and truly get reinvested in the story. That's what I have written down. The ending of the book and the exploration of the politicking really had me intrigued, and I do suspect that I'll enjoy the series more as it continues. I think it's kind of confusing the way that I had that worded, but the ending starts bringing in a whole bunch more politics into this world, and that's what I wanted to, that's kind of what re-hooked me, got me re-interested, was seeing how the political maneuvering was starting to come into play and how that had been affecting the story previously. So this book reads really quickly, and it is a fun time for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what Troy Knowlton does next. Overall, I think solid is a very fitting adjective to describe this book. Some things I didn't love, that's the way it goes, but largely I enjoyed my time reading the book, and that's kind of all that I can ask for, is that I enjoy the time reading the book, and which I did most of the time. So that is my review for Seekers, The Winds of Change by Troy Knowlton. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay well.